In this lesson, we'll build the main body of the pod itself. So we've got the back of the pod. I've just named these objects, and I want to select both of these together. And from the side view, or the front, I just want to move this down onto the grid, and let's move it back in this direction. So maybe something like that. So our whole pod is centered up here, because this is going to be the back end of it. All right, let's actually get that back there and jump back into our perspective. And so now we want to build the main body of the pod itself, and we can do that using just a cylinder. So we'll start with a cylinder, and let's just drop that in with our keyboard entry. Radius is 5 and 10, height of 10, but we'll go ahead and modify those here in a second. Just look at the edged faces here, and the first thing I'll do is go ahead and just rotate this, and I'll just rotate it 90 degrees here. We can kind of move it back into position. Now I want the to actually cut this off in the middle. So just like this has a flat bottom, I want the main body of the pod to have a flat bottom as well. So we'll turn on slice. Now it's going to go from here all the way around to here. So I don't want to change the slice from, I want to leave that edge here. I want to actually change the slice to, and rather than going around all the way, I just want it to go halfway, which in this case is 180 degrees. So I'll change that slice to value to 180 degrees, and then I'll drop that in. I'll set my sides to 9 because I want to have 4 on either side and then a strip in the middle. I'm not going to add any height segments at this point because it'll be a little bit easier to connect up and make this geometry nice and clean if we do that afterwards, because you can see that there's already some geometry that ends, it doesn't connect up with anything. So we'll be able to fix that a little bit easier if we go ahead and leave that to be for now. So let's take the height and we'll increase the height a bit. Okay, move that back into the pod base, and let's extend that height out a little bit more. So maybe something more like that. Okay, something like that. And so now what we can do is, once we get the values all the way that we want, we can go ahead and convert that. And we can convert to an editable mesh, we can convert to an editable poly. Okay, but now we want to kind of connect up everything and clean everything up. Now the polygons in the back we don't really need because they're penetrating into the other geometry. So we can go ahead and just select only those polygons on the back and delete those. So we don't need to use those. Now I want to connect up the geometry here on the bottom. So you can see there's a line that stops right here. So I want to actually extend that down so our geometry makes a little bit more sense. And so to do that, I can use cut, which we can find here or in our graphite tools. I'm going to start down here on the edge and drop that right up there. Okay. Now if we take a look at these points, let me go ahead and just select one of these points and go to move it. You can see that it is welded. Now you may have an issue where it's not connected. If you have that issue, you need to go down and under Edit Vertices, just hit Weld with those points selected. So all of our points look like they're good to go. We've got a few extraneous points down here which we can get rid of. All right. Now what we can do is start to add a little bit of resolution in here. We can use Connect to do that. So we'll select the edges here. Let's use Connect, and we'll use the settings. So get our new little interface here. Let's increase the number to, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. Say maybe 5 or so. Okay. And say OK to that. Now the front I want to shape a little bit more. Okay. So I want to take all of those points and I just want to move them back a little bit. Let's now select these polygons on the front. Okay, and I want to extrude those out. So use our extrude. Don't want to extrude them out quite so far, so I'll change those values down to maybe 3 or so. So we get something like that. Now I want to shape this a little bit, but I only want to shape the polygons here that I have selected. So with that polygon selection active, I'll go ahead and add a freeform deformer, and let's just add a 3 by 3 by 3. Okay, so we get something like that. Now we can select the control points. Let's select those points on the bottom, kind of move those out a little bit. Select the points in the middle, kind of move those out. We can take the points on the top and move them back. We just don't want to cross over that line there. Okay, so let's just create kind of a nice curve on the front of our pod here. We can also take the points on the ends, just those points in the corner, and pull those out a little bit as well. Okay, so we end up with something like that. And let's take those middle ones, and I'm just going to pull this out a little bit, maybe down slightly. So that's kind of the effect that we're going for. All right, and once we're done with that, we can go ahead and I'm going to actually just kind of pull this back a bit. Okay, and we can go ahead and collapse that. All right, now let's do some kind of large-scale shaping. We can do this from the top view, might be the easiest. So just going in and selecting the different rows of vertices, so selecting those, I'm going to just go to scale and scale those in the X. So I want the pod to be kind of larger where the cockpit's going to be, and then it can kind of taper in as it comes in and intersects with the back of the pod. So create a shape that's something like this, possibly. You can do whatever kind of shape that you want, but I'm going to go with something along these lines. Okay, we can also come in here, and if we grab these points, again, we can grab one of the FFDs, use the control points to kind of shape that if we want to. Okay, maybe if we want to kind of widen that out a little bit, we can do that. Okay, and that'll help us keep the points there. We can go ahead and collapse that when we're done. Okay, and then kind of widen that out. So a lot we can do here just in creating our shape. Okay, and again, it's flat on the bottom. We pull that out a little bit more. But then we have this shape here. Now if we want to make it a little bit taller, we could use a deformer. We could also kind of scale it. If we just want to sort of scale that up a little bit, we can do that too. Okay. The next thing I want to do is kind of create some detail up here on the front. So I'm going to select just these polygons, so basically 4 on either side. Let's do an inset on those. And again, you can find this on Graphite or down here in our rollout. Let's do a little inset. Let's take the amount down. So in my case, it's going to be something like 0.2 or 0.3, but just visually take a look at what that looks like and try to match it up. And we'll say OK to that. And let's now extrude this in, and I want to extrude by the local normal. And just pull those in slightly. So minus 0.1. Maybe minus 0.2. And you can check and see what that looks like. We might need to go by group. And just kind of pull that in. Okay, so maybe something like that. And you may need to move some of the geometry out of the way. So we'll say OK to that. All right, so that's kind of a good start for the body of our racer, the pod. So the next thing that we want to do is to come in and start to build in the actual area where the driver is going to sit, the cockpit. So we can extrude some geometry in, and we can create a piece that's going to go over that for the glass. And so let's go ahead and do that in the next lesson.